Chapter 34, Boobie Talk. Joshua missed sucking on some boob that wasn't his wife's breastfeeding ones, who for the past 9 years have tasted like a foamy, tipped, regrettable, non-fat latte. His summer win, Katie Kings, were perfect, as Rodney would say. 36D to be exact. You'd think they were fake by the way they bounced when she was on top, because they barely moved out of their picturesque, perky plump place. One time, Joshua was doing kettlebell chest raises off their fancy Moroccan print, self-designated Rocky rug in the garage, and having his 9-year-old daughter do the same after, which prompted her to ask, "Daddy, will these chest exercises stunt my eventual breast development?" Joshua says, "If you take after mommy, it won't be too much of a load off your shoulders." Growing up, Joshua was more into the actress Mimi Rogers' luscious lobes of mound from the first Austin Powers, more so than Liz Hurley, who wasn't making you feel shortchanged on top either. Scandal in the Mansion was his favorite old school 70s porn by far, before tatted up white girls on crystal meth ruined porn for him, because he preferred the golden age of muff diving instead. Like Dice would say back in the day, women today went to hide the smell of their bush with Chanel, but when I go down there, I want to taste salmon. And smoking hot, Nicole Eggert from Charles in Charge, who Joshua had a poster from Child World that his friend Jared offered to trade an Eric Lindros rookie card for, only became a woman in Joshua's eyes after her boob job on full display in the softcore porn flick Blown Away, starring a suddenly grown-up, ripped Corey Haim before Hollywood used and abused him, sucking his life spark dry. Now Joshua was getting lost in Golda's gorgeous, sun-spotted, well-tanned cleavage formation with a Star David dangling between her swinging beauties on her nationally syndicated libertarian talk radio show, The Funny Jewbone. Golda says, "Today on our show, we've got a stay-at-home comedian dad, Michael Kornbluth, whose 9-year-old daughter agent suggested I book him as a guest on my show already, after pushing for him to get into my Jewy Manhattan book club prior. Joshua just released his very funny, super ballsy comedy record, Resist This. You recorded this comedy record from home, correct?" Joshua replies, "That's correct, Golda. I understand there's no live audience, yet funny is funny, and the material made me laugh out loud long time from start to finish," which is more than I could say for Dennis Miller's White Album, also not recorded in front of a live stand-up comedy audience. Also, what kind of a douchebag are you to name your comedy record the freaking White Album, which is a top 4 Beatles record at best? Plus, shouldn't comedians who consider themselves true artists for creating comedic art out of nothing do more comedy gold digging to craft a stronger headline hooker of a comedy record title than the fucking White Album? Also, isn't great comedy the most universal, rather than using the most obscure details to only stroke off your own fake news deep ego long time? Granted, Dennis Miller did encourage Lorne Michaels to give the Golden Jew Adam Sandler his SNL audition, but Miller also named his son Holden from Catcher in the Freaking Rye. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that book when I was 15 like everyone else, but Holden always came off a tad too preppy petulant for my taste. You were miserable in junior high. Join the freaking club. At least you got to live in Manhattan and lose your virginity. So I'm assuming was a semi-good-looking prostitute who knew what she was doing. Asshole. Also, what kind of an asshole does a stand-up comedy show in Vegas with his hands in his jacket pockets half the time, fashion himself as a punchier-styling Mark Twain, minus the cutting, nationally acclaimed, literary-loaded imaginative heft? So, Dennis Miller looks good in a beard and started defending Trump 2 years into his already wildly successful presidency. Pre-coronavirus. Whoop-de-freaking-do, Miller. Kevin Hart named his kids Hendrix and Heaven, which is way cooler than Holden. Obviously, none of those names compared to me naming my son Arthur Morris and Kornbluth, which is a mini miracle, creating a freaking flow of a name leading to Kornbluth, but I digress. I had an old joke where I comment about how my last name Kornbluth is a mouthful, and I even struggle to enunciate it despite having 4 decades of practice, and then adding, Kornbluth is a total mouthful. Kim Kardashian can't even wrap her mouth around it. But now, Kim Kardashian is studying to become a criminal justice lawyer after using her enormous social media platform to help get Alice Waters pardoned from jail, so I'm just another loudmouth Jew in comparison, minus the rich, successful friends. Excluding you, Golda. Kim Kardashian is going to become a criminal justice lawyer. Now, criminal justice lawyers are so hot right now. Golda finishes laughing a long time and says, I called this show the funny Jew bone for a reason, folks. Joshua was obviously endowed with a bigger bone than most. Joshua continues to roll, constantly selling, always closing. So my debt comedy record, Resist This, consists of my greatest joke gem hits from my Do It All Dad Year podcast. What Gen X parents understand. Controlling our kids to comedy can make our kids great again. My 3 fuss-free, pitch-perfect kids, 98% of the time, are living proof of it. I've done 210 episodes of straight-up topical stand-up comedy for 3 years straight, accumulating hours of grade A stand-up material while looking after 3 kids in the process. John Lennon wishes he was this productive during his stay-at-home dad years. Golda says, are you sure there isn't anything you left out, Joshua? Joshua says, glad you asked, Golda. I knew you got paid the big bucks for a reason. I'm about to complete my first coming-of-age, midlife crisis reinvention novel, the Great American Jew Novel, in addition to securing our first round of Super Angel funding for my Do It All Dad Year Hero kosher cheesesteak truck using a plant-based cheese whiz, which would blow off your bursting at the seams bra, Golda. Golda says, I noticed you getting lost in my bowling beauties before. If you got it, flaunt it. Joshua says, that's why you couldn't shut me up if you tried, Golda. Unless you buried my face into your chest during your next commercial break.